What's coming in this morning is around how we recognize divine support and grace. And yeah, what it is to, we speak about handing the life over to the divine, letting go of control, letting the divine be the flow of our life, the releasing of that sense of control and separation and division. And many of us will, of course, have direct experiences of this. There's a curious thing about it because the safety-seeking part of us wants a guarantee that if I let go and if I say yes to this, then I want to know what's going to happen, and I know what I want to know what that's going to look like. But that's not part of the deal. To say yes to the divine is to take the step into the unknown and say yes when you don't know on a mental level, of course, what that looks like. But your yes is coming from a connection to heart, to source, that somehow just knows. And it's like we dive into like a deep knowing, and somehow that step, that yes, like the quality of our yes, the frequency of our yes, is where that this one might be a bit of a this one might be a bit of a tender-hearted path. Uh, but this is in a way the living demonstration of what it is to be the instrument, right? That it's like there's nothing that when we say yes, that we don't choose something that's more comfortable. For me, we let the divine path unfold, and we stop trying to control how things look, because our trust in the divine knows that whatever comes is exactly what we are asking for and what we are creating out of the intelligence of our consciousness to carry us deeper, to help us see what's holding us back inside, and that we will eventually get right down to the bottom, and we will release and illuminate and free the seeming holding patterns that keep us going back to protection and separation. And in a way, what this energy that's flowing into the field today is really about the profound support that is available, and that recognizing that is such an important part of there being more of that, like the surrender into that, the saying yes to that is what invites more of it, right? So sometimes we speak of, if you take one step towards God, God will run towards you. We'll take 10, we'll take 100 steps. And, every time that we have some kind of opening, that is the presence of God. That is the grace. I mean, everything is the grace. But the indicators that we're looking for, like we want to have those kind of openings, because we want to know that our yes is being responded to. We want to know that our step is that we want to actually feel that those steps, those 10, 100 steps are being taken towards us, right? So it's this recognition that if we stop trying to control what that reciprocity, reciprocity. Did I say it right? It doesn't sound quite right. You know what I mean? That is actually happening. Reciprocity, there we go. Is actually happening. That as we say yes, that there's a flow. But of course, that yes can't have conditions upon it, because the conditions will create a kind of restraint, right? So whenever we have some kind of opening, there the presence of God is. And it's this receiving of the grace without saying, I want it to look like this, or that way of it showing up isn't quite good enough for me. I want something bigger. I want the fireworks, right? It's the recognition of the you know, the brushings of the cheek, the kiss, the embrace, the opening, the synchronicity, you know, the seeming small miracles are pointing to the big miracle. And when we acknowledge the small miracles, we're opening our clearer vision to the big miracle. And so we're in these kind of plays of life where it can feel like there are challenges that come, and we're asking for assistance. But often when we're asking for assistance, if we are actually asking for assistance, we can be asking from a conditioned place, a place that it actually is on a certain level closed, because we can be feeling like, have a deep frequency holding of a kind of sense of being abandoned or rejected by the divine. So we can be holding these frequencies where we're kind of open to it, but we're also kind of closed to it. Sometimes we speak about giving with one hand and taking back with the other. Like, I want it all, but actually, I'm not so sure, because I don't know if I trust you, God. I don't know, right? So there's this dance that we can be in, where there's a part of us that is connected, that knows what we belong to, knows that truth, knows our own wholeness, and yet to come into relationship, like full relationship with our own wholeness, like with the divine that we belong to, can be this dance of, I want that because I kind of know that. But then whatever's inside me that's holding me back, which is like the unworthiness, the unlovableness, the hurt, the fear, the shame, right? However it's dancing, is like, I want that. And yet somehow from the early life, there's frequencies that are holding us away from that we're not necessarily aware of, right? So we're going to go more into that over the weekend, and then in the retreat. It's a big piece, right? And it's in our field to be met and dived into. But in this moment, what is coming forward is this sense of how we acknowledge where the support is there, and that when we have an opening, that is the presence of God. That is, you know, or it's this recognition of, we don't want that banging on the microphone. It's this recognition of grace and acknowledging the kind of wow and the awe of grace. Yeah. And that as we open to this, what feels challenging in the life gets easier. We deepen in and we refine into our belonging, the true nature of who we are. And we find this greater capacity to be with what feels challenging in the life. It doesn't necessarily mean that everything disappears immediately. And so again, we can have some kind of opening and we can feel really great. And then it seems like, oh, here comes a challenge. I must have done something wrong, or I must be disconnected. I must have lost that connection to God and glory, right? Or like, wow, what are you doing now? You know, kind of anger with God, frustration. Like, you're letting me down. You're not there, right? Really feeling that, like disconnected, cut off, that I can't find the connection. Whereas, of course, the connection is always, always here. It's what we are. It's what we belong to. And so it's this ability to be so present in the moment, to meet whatever feelings come up. Because as we meet the feelings that come up, we're transmuting and reorganizing and bringing forward those deep frequencies that keep us bound so that we can come into presence and the recognition of connection to source, to the divine. But there's something about really nurturing that. And in a way that whatever happens, not buying into the mind's story of disconnection or abandonment, but allowing there to be a transmutation through the system. It's as if to say, like, I see you, God and glory. I see that you're creating this situation, and it feels hard, it feels challenging, but I know this is your love, right? And we've spoken of this before as a kind of surrender into what we don't already know, or we may not already be living, but we use the frequency resonance of what we do know to carry us into a surrender that might just be able to say, I know that somehow that there's only one, and this all has to be that one. I know somehow that you are all loving, and this has to be your love. Like, I don't feel it right now. I feel like this is off. This is not good. but it's like we stay connected to a deeper place, because that place is the connection, right? And so we allow whatever is happening to not disconnect us by going with a belief that the divine is not present, that we're actually separated. We stay with a trust that it's impossible to be separate and divided from the glory, because that connection keeps us. That is our yes. That is our step, right? And particularly in the face of things that feel challenging, to keep the yes alive, to take that step into the unknown, is what calls forward that support. You know, one thing that I've come to realize here is that, here we go, is that, and I've probably shared this in some capacity with some of you before, but the night before I had this first opening awakening, I was in a very challenging place, very challenging. And I was very, very mad with God. I had a lot of 4-letter words flying around. And because I really felt like, you know, I'm doing my best to be good, and I'm sharing this to make it a relatable experience, right? I'm doing my best to be good. Like, what more do you want from me? These are the kind of things that I was saying. I'm doing all of these things. I'm a yogi. I eat healthy. I'm good. I'm kind. I'm doing all these things. And yet what I noticed were these sort of patterns in my life. And I was so frustrated with myself. I was in a particular pattern of mistrust that night, suspicious, mistrusting, looking for clues that I was being betrayed, all of this, and feeling so crazy with myself. Like, here I go again, and creating discord in the relationship. I could see it. I knew it well. I was a conscious being, and I could not. I just didn't seem to be able to unravel this pattern. So this landed me in a conversation with God that was quite heated, and I really felt like I do not know what you want from me, right? I do not know what you want from me, and I do not know what else I can give you. I feel like I'm at the end of what I what I know, what is possible. I'm absolutely like, and it came in a way of surrender that felt kind of angry, actually. It wasn't actually feeling like a prayer. It was feeling like angry, upset, frustrated, all of the stuff, right? And I fell asleep in that state. And the next morning, I went to a satsang, and this ginormous opening happened that changed my life, has never ever gone back. A moment, an instant of realizing that I'm not the person, I'm not the story, I'm the infinite. And what I realized then is that somehow I came to a level of surrender, even though I was asking God, like, what do you want from me? Like, show me. Like, I've got no idea. And what I came to realize is that, like, I was given something. I was given like an answer to the prayer. And what I also came to realize then was that it opened a connection to the divine that asked me to keep surrendering at that level, right? So this is why I'm sharing this, is because it's that every time that we have some kind of opening, we're being given something, and we're not being given something to expect that we can hang on to this and that it should stay the same, but we're being given like a clear sign of what we belong to. I would even say that I would replace like the idea of having an awakening with being brought into the presence of God, right? So again, we can have this idea that we want an awakening, we want this happening, because we have these conceptual ideas about what that is. But if we shift that we're looking for an actual happening, we're looking for an event, we're looking to land ourselves somewhere. And actually what we're really being asked in this lifetime is to come back into communion with the divine and to really confirm our belonging to God and glory, to the one. And if we shift our perspective from looking for an event, looking for a happening, looking to get something from me that will maybe take me out of suffering, Now, that happening for me, of course, there was a series of these happenings, and it was the unique thing that was needed in this life. And it brought a lot of incredible grace and seeing and freedom, but it also brought with it a lot of challenges. And those challenges were perfect for this one. And in the, then the living of life was the integration. And this is true for all of us. The living of life is the integration. How present we are, how we integrate, how we keep that connection. And then the realization here is how, again, like these offerings kept coming. And the offerings, the openings, whether they were a meeting with a divine being that felt like guidance was coming from that. It was the receiving of all of that and keeping the yes in place. Just saying yes to, like, this is your life. This, I am yours. You show me how. But what's also important is that with that came challenges in life as well. But what happens is that as the challenges come, the ability to hold yourself, for me, the ability to hold myself in those challenging situations and to be able to apply what was being seen and to realize that whatever it was, I was absolutely held in grace, and that this was the grace, right? So it's like if we're looking for some kind of pipe dream idea that we're going to open to something and then, we're never going to feel challenged, or everything's going to just disappear. It's like that just isn't how the wisdom flows. It's not how the intelligence of life works. That in itself is a deeply held protective resonance that wants to get away from life. Whereas really what grace is offering us is an awakening into life, to live this life in freedom as a child of God, to actually be an instrument of God and glory, to actually be the frequency of love, of light, right? So that we're not being with life in a way that's cutting off any parts of our life, that we're really truly realizing that all of our life is here to be met and integrated, and that we're not looking for certain outcomes, and that we're not associating certain outcomes. We're not giving it meaning that this means that I am good, this means that I'm connected to the divine, right? Because all of that comes from a deeply held belief that there's something wrong with me and that I need to be worthy, I need to do it right. So the way that life plays is the grace. And it's in our saying yes to life and the way that it plays, and our ever-deepening capacity to meet life and know that whatever this is your grace, and I'm saying yes to it. And that instead of that impulse inside us that comes from the deeply held frequencies that tells us you're getting it wrong, you're abandoned, you're rejected, you're disconnected, you're not one with God, right? You're apart from love. You're not lovable. You're not worthy. Whatever it is, those are deep misunderstandings that we're holding, and that when the feelings come, that the feelings themselves are offering us the opportunity to touch into what will release the discord and the beliefs. So if we go towards the beliefs and we make our allegiance with those, then that will continue to repeat until we are ready in the face of something challenging to say, okay, this is your grace. And instead of believing that you're letting me down and that you've left me and that you're not actually here and this is not kind, that I can feel what's in my nervous system and I can allow the transmutation and I can breathe with it. I can be with it. I can realize that it's not personal. This is just energy of the human collective unwinding through my system. And I keep my allegiance with God, with love, with a deep held trust that's not trusting in something or someone, but it's trusting in your own knowing. It's trusting in your own connection to presence, to source, and really honoring the sacredness of your own connection to source. That says that this knowing doesn't need a demonstration that the mind would find valid. But it's this, in this trust, in this saying yes, that I know that I belong to the divine, to the glory, to the mother, whatever words, to my own wholeness, to the light, to perfect love. And where you can feel that frequency inside, that's the connection. And to honor the sacredness of that can also be felt in the silence, right? It's the silence. However we recognize it, it's this valuing, this honoring of where we do know the presence of God and nourishing that and nurturing that in a way that says, I want to deepen this connection. I want to call upon this. I want to honor that I'm not alone. I'm not abandoned. I'm not disconnected. That this grace and this support is right here. And it's actually not looking outside of you. It's actually looking to the wholeness of you. Sometimes we can experience, more than emotionality, more than challenge. We can experience more of a sense of numbness or disconnection as a kind of emptiness or like a sense of being shut down to that. Like, I don't believe in that. Or I'm just not into that. But the curious thing is if we stay protected in that way, this is not about religion. This is not about joining, a tribe. This is not about joining a religious movement or any kind, believing in anything. It's actually about discovering that where we cut ourselves off from what we, in this moment, are calling the divine or wholeness, if we cut ourselves off from that because we're protected, really what we are wanting to do is to find the frequencies in us that are holding ourselves apart, believing that we're apart. And sometimes that holding apart cannot feel particularly like rejection or abandonment. It can be so cut off that it just feels empty, just like, don't know what you're talking about. A kind of dissociation, right? And so sometimes we say, if we make one prayer, let's make that prayer for pure devotion. Let's make that prayer to feel like the aliveness in my heart to fall into the current of life, to fall into the current of pure surrender. To fall into the current of life is to fall into the flow of vitality, of life, of love, of ignition, of activation, right? And if we're holding ourselves apart from that, and we're protecting ourselves from that, then we're going to feel in our lived experience, in our body, in our thought complexes, we're going to feel the ways of feeling disconnected, unsupported, abandoned, rejected, hurt, numb, disconnected, right? We're going to feel all of that. And so in a way, what we're opening here is we're just bringing some brightness to the whole field for illumination, just to see, just to recognize, how does this resonate with you? Like, how does this touch your unique experience? What does it touch into? What does it reveal? What does it enliven? What does it stir? Because what we can be absolutely sure of is that the divine, the one intelligence, the grace, is always flowing to support us and carry us deeper. And that in every moment we will have a kind of choice to either choose our mind and our beliefs and the protection, or we will be offered this possibility to choose the yes. So we could say that we're saying yes or no to recognize the connection in any given moment. And it might be that we say, well, even if we recognize, well, I'm feeling a no, can we be aware of the one that's saying no? And just hold that energy with presence and kindness. We're not trying to create new beliefs. Not at all. We're actually really unraveling beliefs. We're unraveling concept. We're unraveling the discordant concepts around religion and the divine in order that we can restore connection to the divine. You know, I continue to be in awe of the support that has actually accompanied me. It brings me to my knees again and again. And there's not a need for anyone to know or understand how these things have presented and what I've said yes to. And yet it leaves me in a kind of awe that it seems that I'm being called to share it on the level of direct experience of the absolute unmistakable grace and support. And how somehow the constant saying yes, and I'm not saying that I haven't ever said no, or I haven't ever, there's been a lot of deep processing and communion and some intensely challenging situations, like bonkers, that I've I've had to face in this path. But even the most bonkers situations, I've said, this is all you. Okay, let's go. I've got no idea how this is going to turn out. But like, here I am, great glory, right in the center of it. I don't know how I got myself here. I have shame even that I got myself here. Crazy. I'm supposed to have clear seeing. But somehow I found myself right in the middle of a really big, crazy, holy mess. And only now am I seeing that. I've walked blindly somehow, because the inner frequencies walked me blindly into situations that suddenly it's like, oh, what are you going to do now? Right? So there's a realness to this unfolding. If we are to really reclaim our wholeness, right? To really live this reality, and this is my great passion, is what is it to live this reality? What is it to truly embody love? Like, not as an abstract, like, la, 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 let's all embody love and dance around in the meadow, with flowers in our hair, and where fluffy bunnies are jumping by and there's glitter falling from the skies. It's like, no, like, what is this? What is it? And far from that, it's like, we crawl on our knees. It's like, wow, right? And yet the joy, the delight, the awe, the wonder, the grace, the glory just continues to grow. And what is possible in this human life becomes not like a dangling carrot that we're never going to reach, but something that really starts to come alive, right? You can recognize this because everyone is touching this. And in a way, what we're sharing today isn't about stories and ideas of things that are not possible. Everyone has touched these places, and it's really this invitation to honor and value what you are touching and the impact that that is having in your evolution of your life. And that on a day when you feel really crappy, you can be like, well, I'm not even getting it anyway. And, I'm right in the middle of it. Blah, 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 right? It feels stinky. And yet suddenly it's like, oh, actually, now I'm feeling a whole lot better. And it's not so stinky after all. And wow, that was actually really kind of profound what happened. Because I wasn't actually in a darker place as I thought. But what's happening is these very, very deep bottom of the barrel frequencies are being touched into and are being released. And quite honestly, we can't come to complete wholeness without including what's at the bottom of the stinky old barrel, right? Loving the stink, right? It's like we don't have to go digging around. We don't have to go mining for it. Life is bringing it. It's being alert and awake in life and being willing and saying yes and recognizing that we're supported. We're supported by the intense things that happen. It's like, okay, wow. It's kind of like, a 3-year-old child gets a new jigsaw puzzle. They're able to do jigsaw puzzles with 12 pieces. And then suddenly they get one with 20 pieces, right? That's what's happening to us, is that we can do the puzzle with 1,000 pieces. And so here comes the puzzle with 5,000 pieces. Because you have the capacity to do that puzzle. You're a divine being. You're intelligence itself. You are love. You have the capacity. And God is saying, reveal yourself, beloved. Reveal the magical divine being that you are. You have this capacity. And if I don't call you to show yourself what you are capable of, then you're not going to touch it in your comfort zone. You're going to la, la, la. You're going to walk around the house in your carpet slippers, keep everything the same, keep it all cozy and comfortable. But God is saying, no. You have so much more to live, right? Greater things than these shall ye do, right? We are wired for magnificence, right? I am curious what it is to live magnificence. And I'm all about gathering companions that are interested in living magnificence, right? So this is what we're up to. It's not about you've got to show up in your magnificence. It's about, no, show up as you are. Come on your knees. Come limping, right? Let's join together here and find out what it is to transmute what feels broken and unfixable into living magnificence, because we're surely wired for it. And what I would say is that the reason that I'm used in an instrument is this way is because I know that without question, because I'm living it without question, right? And it's not about anyone else experiencing what I've experienced. And that's why I feel like taking away the veils and the whole idea is about awakening experiences and where you land when some kind of opening happens, and recognizing that any opening is really like the veil falling away and the presence of God saying, just like in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, no, where Arjuna says to Krishna, like, show me the fullness of your glory. I want to see it all now. And so Krishna actually does the kind of like, da, and Arjuna's like, whoa, it's like, I feel like for sure, I've had a few versions of that in this lifetime. And then it's like, wow, what now, and here there's been experiences of like not being able to like move for days, not being able to feed myself, not, suddenly not being able to do the things that I did, and all of the natural things like, well, how do I navigate my family now? And do I tell anyone what I've seen? Like all of these things. But it's not about mimicking or having that same experience. Everyone has had the veil drop. And we're shown what our nervous system has the capacity for. And actually, we're shown what we're ready for and what we're asking for. And the grace, the intelligence is kind, and it will open according to what we are ready for, what we are wired for, what we have the capacity to hold. And what we have to realize is that it's not about just the big kahuna experience. It's the living of life. We find the grace and the glory at the bottom of the barrel, right? The stinky, that's God, right? All of that. So we're being carried in unique ways. We're being carried into ourselves. We're in this incredible adventure, right? This is not an adventure in this lifetime about falling into an experience that takes us out of life. It's about, for sure, opening to know that we are the transcendent field, that we're not the mind, that there's this impersonal, unbounded reality, a field of silent presence that is the true nature, that we have access to, the feeling, sensing field that is beyond everything. And yet, what is it to integrate and live this? Life is giving us this opportunity. And so as we commune with the ways that we are given support, the ways that grace does show up, and we keep saying yes, and we can ask for support and revelation. I don't know about you, but I've noticed that if you call upon Yeshua, it's a fairly immediate response. It's powerful, right? May not be your bag. That's totally okay, right? It's got to feel true. But there's surprises that if you actually open to receive the grace and glory and guidance that's here, that is here. And it's about this yes in the heart. And the recognition that it doesn't necessarily show up on demand by command. It shows up in the humility of the yes. It's the frequency that is the true invitation. It's a very subtle frequency that's willing to go beyond what I know and say yes to where I cannot hold on to the edges. And it's to recognize the moments where you where you go beyond the edges, where you feel that expansion. And it might seem like it opens and then it closes, and it opens and then it closes. But actually, you, in your capacity, open and you touch it. And then it seems like it closes because sometimes our fear will close, or that's just enough that our nervous system can take. It's all here. It's all here. And we're being refined to be able to walk this, to live this, to discover this. And so a kind of honoring of what our hearts already know, right? So we speak often about it's already here, you already know it. And of course that true knowing can never be replaced with a mental idea, right? It's about letting go. And I'm going to say here that even the way that I'm sharing today is like a living demonstration of that, right? Started off a little clumsy, a little clunky, a little tender-hearted, because I can feel what's coming through, but I don't have a plan. I don't know what I'm going to say. And I meet moments where I'm like, okay, what now? What now? Right? But the next thing comes. It's like you take the step. And often here, in one of these meetings, the first step is just letting the first words come. I have no idea what will come next. I have no idea what will happen. And that's the invitation of life that we're being invited into. But then I can suddenly feel like, whoa, okay, here it is. The instrument is now resonating and things are flowing and it feels really easy and smooth, and there's a lot of light, and there's intelligence flowing, and I can feel the joining. I can feel the attunements happening in the field. I can feel each one attuning and joining and feeling the resonance. And now the flow comes more and it moves through me more because we're joining together, and there's an upliftment happening because there's recognition happening, right? So it's one field, one whole, and we're in this together. We're walking this together. Right? And what we're really being shown today is just this, how the yes is so potent. And the yes in the face of in the face of adversity is the most potent. Right? And the curious thing is that we can say yes in the face of adversity, and we can allow that transmutation to happen. And at the same time, there can be a kind of opening. An example would be like maybe even like in a meeting, in a gathering, or at the end of a gathering, could feel very still and silent and open. But there's a like, oh, off I go. And there's not actually, and that's the no to really resting and letting the frequencies of opening. It's often spoken, and I'm sure I've shared this with you before, but like 10 minutes or so after being immersed in a satsang is often where the magic happens, right? So if it's like, oh, gotta go, gotta have lunch, gotta get out of here, got another appointment to go to, boom, shut the screen, off I go into the car, right? It's like it's like a subtle no. So it's this dance between how deep is our yes and recognizing like, oh, okay, there's something really beautiful here. The frequency, the intelligence, the potency, the presence, the rest. That's why I often say, take time to integrate, rest, lie down, stretch, dance, like just be with God, right? If God is here, like be with God. You're wanting God to show up. It's like, if God is here in your heart, like entertain, right? Let yourself be taken. Not like, actually, it's time for lunch, right? It's like just being so present with your direct experience and recognizing that there's never a moment to put God off, right? You're woken up in the middle of the night. Oh man, I'm not sleeping. I'm not sleeping. No, you're not, because God is a calling, right? God's got plans for you 3 o'clock in the morning. So it's like, are we going to focus on like, oh my God, my sleep's disturbed and blah, 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 blah? Or am I just going to sit up and just say, okay, just fall into the silence? As I'm sure I've shared with you, I've spent many a night in full prostration across my bed. So you find your way. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. But we come into communion. We come into communion with what is calling upon us, what is visiting us, what is being revealed to us. And we don't dwell too much in the like, oh, well, you know, nothing's really happening, or like I'm waiting for like some kind of mythic idea. It's like when we let go of what we think we want to happen and we actually receive the grace of what is happening and what we are being shown, and the profundity of this life, then it's like our yes is inviting more and more and more. Right? It's inviting more of our own wholeness. It's inviting more of our own heart. It's inviting more of the direct knowing of our own divinity. It's inviting the fullness to be lived, to be integrated, to be explored, to be welcomed. Right?